What's up, 10 Skill Squad? We are in the drifting warehouse. We've got Ethan in the warehouse. And this is part 2 of the 2-part series on how to drift. So if you missed the first part, I'm gonna put a link up over here. You can check that out. In the first part, we looked at how to choose what chassis is right for you and some basic setup on how to make that thing go sideways. And now it's time to actually make it go sideways. Got the Kyosho Fazer MK2 here. It's got an aluminum drive shaft in it. It's got drift wheels and tires on it. And of course, we locked the rear differential. So we've got some cones out here, and I'm gonna show you what I do to practice drifting and some things you can do to try and get the hang of that car going sideways and how to control it. Let's do it. All right, so we got this thing all set up to drift. Now, one of the things I really like about Kyosho is these transmitters. These ready-to-run transmitters that they send you, these are actually pretty nice. It's got a nice foam wheel on there. The throttle is really nice feeling. I dig it. And look at this. We've got all kinds of settings to play with here. So I've already set this up. I made sure that our steering was trimmed up. That means that, you know, when we go forward, it goes in a straight line and the car doesn't veer off to one side or the other. The throttle trim, I've got it set so it's right on the cusp of throttle. That means with even just the lightest trigger touch, you're gonna get some forward momentum. The throttle exponential, basically that's kind of like your throttle response, and that's gonna take a little bit of playing with. I've got mine set at, I don't know, maybe 60% or though. I've driven this thing around and it seems like that's where it's most responsive. And then of course we have our reverse speed here, and I've got that turned down quite a ways. So we're not gonna be going full speed in reverse here. Anyway, when you finally get your drift car all set up, the first thing that you should do if you're learning is just kind of get a feel for it, you know. See how it responds to input, you know. And you will find that it's super responsive to throttle as well as steering input. So when you start to go sideways, you'll find that you can actually spin faster. You'll actually turn faster if you give it more throttle, right? And that's how you actually control how far out or what your angle of drift is. And you'll find that you really don't need a whole lot of throttle to go sideways. Now that's like maybe quarter throttle right there. And then if you want some better angle, you just give her the beans and she comes right around. Once you get familiar with how your car handles, a good thing that I like to do is practice donuts. Now I got these cones from Red Cat, but you can use anything. You can use a bottle of water or whatever. I like these because if you bump into them, they don't knock over. You just kind of scoot them around and change your target a little bit. So let's stick this down and see if we can try and do some donuts around it. Boom, there we go. And so we'll come up to it here. Give her some throttle. There you go. Just practice staying sideways all the way around that cone. Just do some wide donuts. And, you know, get the hang of that. And once you get the hang of it going one way, then try going the other way. You can do big, wide donuts. And if you get good at that, then you can try and bring it in and do some close donuts. Practice seeing how tight you can get to that cone. And then if you want to go faster, you can just do some wider, bigger donuts. And as you can see, it doesn't take a whole lot of steering input. I'm not cranking her one way or another. Remember, this car doesn't have a gyro in it, so the only steering input it's getting is from me. The steering is going to help point the front of the car. The throttle is what points or controls the back of the car. So if you get real wide and you want to come in tighter, just give her a boatload of throttle and it'll bring it in tight. Just like that. All right, so now we've got 2 cones set up and we're gonna practice transitioning between the 2. So like we did last time, doing donuts around 1 cone and then going and doing donuts the other way around. Now we're just gonna link the 2. So we're gonna go clockwise around that one, counterclockwise around that one. And we're just gonna practice some figure 8s. And you should start to get the hang of where you need to give the throttle a little blip to get it to get the back end to come around. And if you're having trouble with that, I've found that if I just start out going real slow, doing figure 8s around them, and then kind of gradually build up the speed, you'll find that sweet spot where the back end wants to come around. And then once you find that sweet spot, then it's just kind of balancing on the edge of it, Like you always want that back end to be kind of loose.
You need to keep doing those. Dude, that thing is killing.
Boom.
For a touring car, that thing drifts pretty damn good.
Right? Now we're gonna add 2 more cones. So let's move these back a little bit. Put those kind of further away from each other. Put that one there. And we'll stick this one, maybe about there. So now we're gonna link together all the things that we've learned. We're gonna do a tight donut around here. We're gonna transition into a tight donut around there. And that way, we have a spot, we wanna aim and do our actual drift through these 2 cones. And then once we get better at that, then we can move these 2 cones together and then we can really start practicing where we have the back of the car and how close we can get the back of the car to be. It's all about car control. It doesn't matter how sloppy we are, as long as we're not hitting the cones, that's what we want. We can be as sloppy as we want in the middle of the transition, but just as long as we're somewhat precise actually going around the cones, that's what we're after. So if you want, you can just practice transitioning through the cones, not drift through there, go through that one, slow it down, give yourself some throttle and drift through that cone. Do it again, slow it down, drift through that one, slow it down, drift through this gate, slow it down, come around, drift through this gate. And, just practice that. And then when you feel comfortable, then you can link them all together and drift the whole thing. Something like that. Then we can put our cones super close together like that. That way, we're gonna have to be really precise drifting through those cones. Ha! Then we can practice doing wide donuts and tight donuts, all the way around the cones. Then maybe back to some wide donuts around both of them. And then a good tight one through it. Oh, so close. And that's pretty much the gist of it. It just takes some practice. But that's how I practice. Seeing how close I can get to stuff, seeing, where, if I can really pinpoint where I want to get the car sideways, and just practice stuff like that. And before you know it, you're gonna have the hang of it, guys, and then you'll be able to do all kinds of crazy shenanigans.
Almost don't remember how it feels when you lay down in an open field, when you saw my dreams are turning real, so unreal. Do you like it better when the ocean's warm? Do you like it better when you see the sun? Do you like it better when the sky is blue? I know I do. In a summer state of mind, we've been wasted all the time. In a summer state of mind, in a summer state of mind. Hands, put 'em in the sky, raise your hands. We ain't got no worries, only plans.
So there you have it. With a couple cones and a little bit of imagination, you can make a really cool 10-scale balloon course, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
And for a shaft-driven 10-scale touring car, this thing was not meant to really be a drifter. This thing drifts really easy. What did you think, Ethan?
Oh, dude, this thing is awesome. I really like it, honestly.
Yeah. So there you go, with just a couple little mods like locking the rear diff, tightening up the drive line, and some cheap drifty wheels and tires, you can have a performer pretty easily for not a whole lot invested. So what do you think? Are you guys drifters? Are you gonna get into drifting? Did these videos kind of clear up a couple things that maybe you weren't sure about? I hope so. Let me know down in the comments below. Big shout out to OMG RC where I got this car. If you want to get your own, check out his website at omgrc.com. Tell him 10th Scale sent you. If this is your first time checking out the channel, welcome. I'm glad you found it. We like to do RC shenanigans like this all the time. And we've got some cool stuff coming up, so you're going to want to stick around. All right, guys, until next time. Later. Good job.
In a summer state of mind.
Ciao.